How's everybody doing? Good? Clap, clap. All right. So today we're going to talk about conversions, and we're going to talk about conversions from a high level, speaking about conversions from the standpoint of marrying up those conversions with your marketing objectives, your overall organization objectives. But we'll also get into the granular details as well. Am I in the way of this slide because I am a massive man? So let me find a little corner over here. Okay. Is that better? Good? You guys can yell at me. You know, you guys can. It's better? There you go. Awesome. All right. So here's the thing. I used to work at an association. I worked for Western Growers for 7 years before I worked at HighRoad. And I managed about 10 websites when I was there. And we saw that over time, year over year, that the more marketing became digital, we had to find a way to start tracking our digital properties. I was that person that I think Jerry mentioned that 77%, use open rates and click-through rates as a way to kind of gauge their marketing performance. And I was there. I was the guy that said, "Oh, I got a 30% open rate, sweet." Like that was it. But there's more to it. There's life beyond email, right? There's a lot of activity that's happening after the message gets into that inbox. So people are going to the website, they're doing certain activities, and you got to measure those. So life after email. So the analysis doesn't stop at the email. So just don't track opens and clicks. You got to start tracking the metrics that are on the website. And we're going to use Google Analytics today. I know there's people that use Sitecore, or Adobe has a product that you can use, but today we're going to focus on Google Analytics. It's free, so why not, right? But that's the tool that I used when I was at Western Growers. And so the activities that are happening on the web, right? You want to know if somebody is reading the article, right? Like you sent out this newsletter linked to the articles. Are they actually reading the article, right? Are they downloading that white paper? Are they purchasing that product, right? Are they registering for that event? Are they watching the video? So here's a funny story. We had this video that we put out. It was about how are baby carrots made, right? And surprisingly enough, this is the most viral video we ever had in the history of Western Growers. If you look it up now, it's probably it's under Producepedia, which is a consumer site that we put out, and it has 300,000 views, right? And that was like the most views we've ever had on anything. And but we had no way to track whether people were going to the website. Probably still to this day, we have no idea if people are going to Producepedia.com because of the video. And I think that's probably one of the problems with YouTube a little bit. I think Wistia is coming along, which is allowing you to do that call to actions within the video. But that's another topic for a later day. But that's the thing, right? You want to know if the content that you're pushing out, whether via email, whether some other channel, is actually converting that customer into from a prospect to a member, or a potential, let's say, person that's going to go to the event, a registrant, right? You want to know if they're going to actually register for that event, right? So it's the continuity, right? So you got your email and you got your website. You want to create that continuity from the email to the web. So here's where I was at before, right? So I would send the email out, 1,000 constituents, right? I send it out. I get a 20% open rate. Boom, right? Like, yes, 200 people opened up the email, right? And then, okay, 10% clicked on the links in there. So I got 20 clicks. Awesome, right? But here's the thing. Did I know if those 20 people actually did something on the website? No. But I was happy that 10 people, 10 people or 20 people clicked through to the website. But here's where the harmony is, right? Just adding some parameters to some URLs will give you that metric that the email was the source to that traffic on the website, right? So do you actually know that 5 people actually downloaded the white paper, right? And so you have this conversion metric that you can start to utilize to kind of track your marketing efforts to see if that email is actually effective, right? I mean, if you're just using clicks, then you're like, that email was perfect, right? But 5 people only downloaded the white paper, right? So you probably want more people to actually, engage into your content. You spent that time on that white paper, right? You spent sometimes blood, sweat, and tears into these documents, and you want to know whether or not your campaigns to get people to engage into this content is actually effective. And so that's the discussion today, right? It's goals, right? The conversions and goals that really tell us how effectively we're doing our jobs, right? And so in my talks, I like to take a step back a little bit and look at marketing at a high level, right? And so I love this definition. It's very specific, right? It's marketing defined to me is creating a specific message for a specific audience to dictate a specific response. I had to say specific 3 times. That was difficult. But so here's the thing. Doing all 3 of these things well is very difficult to do, right? Finding that right message that marries up to the right audience is difficult, right? But the definition is simple in this context, right? There's only 2 components that really dictate, you getting that customer to convert to a member, right? And so the way I look at it is a triangle, right? So imagine a triangle is 3 parts, and they kind of work together and they connect together, and a triangle can be long on one side or shorter on the other side. Here's a perfect triangle, a right triangle, and so you're marrying up that audience with that message. And today you see that gray box that says results. That's what we're talking about. We want to measure the results from our campaigns. We want to measure whether or not, excuse me, that audience that we matched up to our message is actually working. So what is a conversion, right? It's simple, right? When somebody performs a desired action, right? That's it. That's all it is, right? So it's a simple formula, right? A call to action, divided by the unique visits on a page, that gives you your conversion metric. And a conversion can be anything. It can be a read on the website or a click on a video. There's so many types of different conversions. Now, there's macro conversions, right? Obviously, the end goal is to get members, right, or a person to attend a conference. Those are macro goals, right? But for the most part, we have these micro goals, these what I call small wins, right? So these small wins make up into these macro large goals, okay? So you got clicks, somebody clicks on a button in the email. That's a conversion. Take that as a win, right? Call to actions on landing pages, right? Somebody watches a video. And the duration of time, we spoke about it just now. Spending time on your website is actually a conversion, right? You can use that and say that's a small win to get us to the larger goal, which is the macro goal for that potential customer to become a member. And so with that in mind, that's called lead nurturing, right? So what you're doing is you're engaging with that constituent over a long period of time. So each engagement, it starts a relationship, right? And with relationships, there's trust, right? And so each interaction that you have with that customer generates more and more trust. And it's just not one touch point, it's multiple touch points, right? It may be email that gets them into the door to start the relationship, but you might be engaging with them on Twitter or Facebook or on YouTube, watching the video, or Wistia for that. So lead nurturing is the process of interacting with that customer over a long period of time to get them to that end goal. Because let's be frank. You send out an email and say, "Hey, attend this event." They may not just click and say, "I'm going." It's going to be a couple of interactions with that customer over a period of time to get them to go to that event. All right. So here's a kind of a funnel, right? They read the blog, okay. Then they watch the video. and then they download the white paper, then they attend the webinar, then they download another white paper, and now the lead joins, right? And so this is kind of a preview to what they call inbound marketing. It's the fact that you're putting content out there into the space, and that prospect is coming to you, looking at you as the expert in that specific niche that you guys have, because you guys do have niches. There's an association for everything, right? So that specific niche, you guys are the experts, right? And so they're looking at you as the expert, and they're coming to you for that content. You start to generate trust with that constituent, and then potentially over the time with different touch points, whether via email or other platforms, that customer joins your membership, right? And so this is where conversions, these small wins, come into play, because you want to have something in place to track all of these elements so that you can get that larger goal, right, of that macro goal of the lead conversion for joins or for that attendance for that big conference that you have yearly. All right, and so when we're talking about conversions, we're talking about also marrying those goals along with your organization. Now, I don't know if you guys had a similar process now at your organization, but at Western Growers, we had our mission, and then we also had objectives annually, right? So the board would get together and they would come up with some goals for you to do, and then those goals become executive goals, and then those executive goals are now your goals, and so then your daily tasks have to be small wins, right, to achieve that larger goal for that, your performance evaluation that's at the end of the year. And so that's how it worked for me. I don't know, is it how it works for you guys? You guys have a board that kind of meets annually? He's like, yeah. So the conversions can marry up to those goals to help you track it along the way, right? So you can easily report on where you're at to achieving some of these goals that the board members are demanding from you, right? And so let's dig into the tool. And so I went through that pretty quick in terms of just kind of defining conversions and also setting the tone. But today we're going to use Google Analytics to kind of see where that source, right, the email, if that source, the email, is the source to those conversions. And so Google Analytics, how many people use Google Analytics now? Oh, sweet. So do you guys got computers right now? You can log on right now. You can probably follow along if you want. There's some screenshots and steps that will take. And so if you got a computer, you can follow along. But Google Analytics it's a free software. There's a premium version which gives you a little bit more data with it, but the free version is powerful within itself. And the spin-up time is so simple with Google Analytics. You just add some JavaScript to the bottom footer, boom, you're up and running, right? So the spin-up time is quick, it's free, and it's a powerful web analytics software, right? But Google Analytics out of the box is not going to give you the conversions that you're looking for that we're talking about, right? So you got to do some things with Google Analytics to get it in shape, basically, to track those conversions. So the first step is Google Campaigns. Now, Google Campaigns is adding a parameter, or a few parameters for that matter, to your links in a URL, which allows those emails to be the source within Google Analytics for your web traffic, right? So custom campaigns help define the source to your web traffic and conversions. So you create a custom link, right? And it's adding 3 parameters to those links. And here's the parameters, right? So you got source, campaign, medium. There's an optional one which is called content. And content is used to kind of distinguish content within the body of the email. But here's the 3 parameters. That's it. 3 parameters that allows Google, once Google sees those UTM parameters on your website, what it does is trigger something within Google Analytics to say, hey, this is the source to this web traffic or this session that is starting right now. Now, you have to have these 3 parameters in place or it won't work. So when I was at Western Growers, I was the MarTech guy, right? I was in marketing, but I was like the IT for marketing, right? So I would get calls all the time. It's like, there's no source. It was like, did you add all the parameters? No, I didn't think we needed it. It's like, you have to add all 3. It says required on the site. Oh, I didn't really mean it was required. No, that means it's required. So source, campaign, and medium are required for the tracking for Google Analytics. So best practices with these parameters, right? Make sure that they're concise, consistent, intuitive, and think it through, right? Because you're going to be using these for reporting. You want to understand, somebody might not be putting these in place, but somebody might be going into Google Analytics, looking at the source to the web traffic and want to know, okay, I can easily define that this came from this specific newsletter, right? So make sure that, you don't have much in that URL, right? So you want to make it small. You want to be consistent, right, and have the same kind of naming conventions in place. And then, when they go in, they know exactly what they're looking at. So campaign, one of the parameters within Google Analytics is the source, right? Campaign source. So here's some examples, like newsletter, invoice, announcement, press release. That's the source to your content. So when you go in Google Analytics, you can look up source, and you can see that this web traffic here was specifically from a newsletter. So a broad name for all of the newsletters that you have, right? Or all of the invoices. If you're doing transactional messaging, you can specify if this web traffic that was generated to your website is coming from an invoice. Or announcement, you're releasing something, or releasing a white paper of sorts. Or press release. Sometimes you guys send out press releases to the press, and now you can see all of the traffic that's generated from the press, right? So the next parameter is medium, right? And so the medium is pretty straightforward if you're doing email marketing, right? So it's email. If you're doing social campaigns, you want to change that up. You don't want to use the email medium and put that same link on Twitter or Facebook, because now it's going to have traffic that's coming from Facebook that says email, and that's untrue, right? So you want to make sure that you're using the appropriate sources when you're posting these links in different locations. So just don't think medium will be email. It can be other types of medium as well. What we did at Western Growers is we had a print shop, so we were kind of married to print. And it was very difficult to manage and track conversions from print. And I was technical enough to create these clean URLs in the background and create 301, or I think it's 301 redirects. And so I would create a redirect and call it like white paper, wga.com/whitepaper. And then that will convert over to a Google link with the parameter of direct mail. And so that medium said direct mail, and so I knew the sources to the postcards that came in the mail or a letter that went out. So if you do still send out paper, that is a way to kind of track traffic that is coming from paper or direct mail, is to use, you got to create a unique, because nobody's going to type out all the parameters in the URL, but if you create a small link within the browser, it's pretty easy. You can actually do it with Bitly now. This was before Bitly kind of was a big player in the game. I wish I would have came up with that idea. But anyways, using that medium type as direct mail will help you, track all your direct mail traffic. All right, so campaign name, you want to make it a little bit more specific than the source, right? You want to add a little bit of context to that campaign name, right? So if you're sending out a newsletter, sometimes you might have a newsletter that has a specific name. Use that, or use the message ID within the Blue Hornet platform to give you some uniqueness to that newsletter, right? There's other things like legislative white paper 2014, so on and so on. So with the campaign name, you can be a little bit more specific, but I would come up with some type of naming convention, right? So if it's a newsletter, prefix it with newsletter, maybe a dash or an underscore, so that that you can quickly identify if it's a newsletter, and then the what it is, maybe the message ID, legislative white paper, and then put the actual name after it. But keep it short because you don't have much room to work with within the URL. And then campaign content is an optional variable that you can use, a parameter that you can use. And that variable is used for A/B content, right? So if you want to do some A/B testing with certain links, you can specify that content property so that you know where the placement is within the body of the email. So here's an example, right? So everybody in here probably sends out newsletters, right? And you have multiple stories in the newsletter, but you also have multiple links within each story that you have in that newsletter, right? So you have the title that might be a link. You have the picture that might be the link. You also have like a read more button that's also a link. If you do not use the content variable, it's just going to show in Google Analytics that the source was this link, but you can actually specify if it was the title link, if it was the image link, or if it was the read more link. And if you come up with a naming convention, you can actually search within the platform for that read more or image link and see all the traffic that's generated by the read more link. So it gives you a good indication of where people are clicking within the body of the email. And for, if you find out that more people are clicking on the read more link, then you include that in the body. But if not, you can get rid of it and just keep the title link in the image, right? So it just helps to improve your marketing communications and help improve your design as well. And so Google has a builder that you can use. You can, if you're on the computer right now, you can go and Google this right here, Google URL Builder. And it's a form that you can fill out, basically allowing you put in your parameters, you put your URL in, and it builds the link, right? But if you're doing a lot of these, you might have to come up with another way to build these links, especially if you're doing the A/B testing. What we did at Western Growers was built a spreadsheet to keep track of them, and then we used a concatenation within that formula to build out that URL. And then we put it on a central drive like Dropbox or the intranet so that people can get to it, and you can see all the links that were used in over time. So Google URL Builder, if you're doing those one-offs and really are kind of afraid of stepping into actually typing out those UTM parameters, is the best way to go to build out those links. And so within the platform, Blue Hornet has a link append feature, right? So you can apply these Google campaign parameters on links on an account level or message level, and also do some manual insertions as well if you want to go beast mode, right, and go into each link and do those newsletters. So the account-wide link append, it does provide you some consistency in naming conventions. So once you have that in place, it's set, and it's set for all messages. But you might have to make some modifications so that you can have that granularity for each of the messages that are deploying. Blue Hornet gives you some system tags that you can use, like message ID, to help distinguish between some of those messages that are going out. So if you had, if you set an account-wide link append and you keep everything generic, then all your messages are going to be the same. So to help with that granularity, I would suggest using the system tag message ID and maybe putting a prefix in there for newsletter. To navigate to that, if people online or here, if you're in your account on Blue Hornet, you go to Administration, Configuration Settings, and then Email Sending Defaults, and then that's where you'll go to make that modification for the site-wide link append feature. And so this is what it looks like. So you just add your UTM parameters in the default link append box. You don't need to add the question mark that goes to the end of the link. Just add the parameters, and then this will add it to all of the messages within with all the messages that get deployed out of that account. Okay. Then there's message level link append as well, right? So you can apply campaign parameters on all links within that message. So you have your account, but then you also have the message level parameters that you can do as well. And so that is on the configuration step where you manage and track links. And so it looks like this. So when you're on the configuration step, you can add your parameters in there. What's cool about this is you can set up your account wide parameters, and then it automatically comes into the message level. So then you can just make some minor tweaks to it and then push the message out. So if you set up your site-wide account link append parameters, then it funnels down into the message level, and it appears there, and then you can make some minor tweaks there and then push the message out. But if you want to go beast mode and you want to kind of look at the messages from the read more level or the image level, you're going to have to do that manually. And you're going to have to use some type of editing software like Dreamweaver or Notepad++ or something like that. You can use the editor within Blue Hornet, but it might be a little easier to do it in an HTML editor because it gives you the different colors and such so that you can easily go through and modify the links. It is time consuming, but it's well worth it to kind of look at your data from that perspective. And so this is just an example of going into the code, digging into it a little bit, and actually adding some links. All right. And so once you have this in place, you can go to Google Acquisitions, right? And so Google Acquisitions gives you campaign level detail. And I don't know if you guys can see that, it's kind of washed out, but basically on any of the reports that are within Google Analytics, you can search for campaign, and it's going to give you some campaign variables that you can add and provide some context to some of the traffic that's coming into your website. So you can easily see the source to your content and see if email is the source to a lot of the traffic that you're generating on the website. And here's some source and medium source. So here's some other examples of what it looks like in the platform. Can anybody see that? Good. All right. So let's talk a little bit about triggers and conversions. Triggers and conversions is the next step to getting that conversion data that you want to see if people are clicking on the video or reading the actual post on or blog post on your website. So you have to, step your Google Analytics game up a little bit and install some triggers to get that to happen. So it's called event tracking, and I call them triggers. And so basically what it does is it records user interaction on your website. It's not in the source code of Google Analytics out of the box. You have to add it. What it looks like, I know this looks scary, so but you're going to have to get one of your IT guys or something like this. But really what I want you to do is walk away from this to be able to articulate this to your IT department and say, this is what I need to be, push this through so that I can get the reports and the conversion data that I need. So I can report on some of the objectives that the board has demanded from us. So here's the event tracking script, and basically it pushes through 4 values: category, action, label, and category, action, label, and value. Right. So these 4 are the values that push through to track those triggers that you're firing off when somebody comes to the website. Category and action are the 2 that are required. The rest are optional, but I suggest using category, action, and label because label helps provide some of that granularity as well. So event category, you can categorize your call to actions or triggers, right? So you can say these are all the downloads that came to the website. These are all the outbound links. If you have links that are going to other organizations or other website properties that you have, you can track that as well. Form submissions, videos, visits. And what this also does is help your bounce rate. Does anybody know what bounce rate is in terms of web traffic? because there's a bounce rate. It's a difference between bounce rate when it comes to email versus web traffic. Bounce rate on a website means that somebody came to your site and didn't do anything and just left, right? So with triggers in place, you can specify certain things, that activity that you would like to see the user to do. If they do those actions, it helps out your bounce rate on your website. So let's define what actions or what values you can place in an action variable, right? So you can track the clicks, plays, reads, scrolls. So if somebody scrolls on the site, you can fire off a trigger that says, hey, this person scrolled to the bottom of the website. Or if they're watching a video, you can say they played a video, right? Or what we did was at a certain duration of time, we determined like 45 seconds if they were on the site for that long, then we constitute that as a read, right? And so we fire something off that said this person read this article. So label provides that granularity to that action or that trigger, right? So you can specify what they're actually on. So if it's a legislative paper, if they downloaded that white paper, you can specify that and see all the traffic within Google Analytics to see all the white paper downloads. Or if you had a video recap of your annual meeting, you can show that as well. All right. And value provides a numerical value. You can provide monetary values, or you can provide some type of metric or a number to allow you to kind of see how much engagement on a scale, right? So this action is 5 points, this action is 10 points, or this action is 20 points, and you can kind of see engagement on a scale level, right? And you can put it on a bell curve if you want to. But value is optional to specify this, but if you want to get that detail, you can kind of set those parameters up and see how much this user that came to your website is valued to you. And so when you go to reporting within Google Analytics, you'll see it's under behaviors, and then you click on events, right? And you'll see the activity, all the activity that is triggered off, right? And you'll see here is an example from HighRoad's Google Analytics account. You can see that outbound links, people clicking in a post and going somewhere else, is the top link. And actually, it's for us, it's because people are coming to our site and logging into our different platforms. So I know how many people that come to our website and go to Blue Hornet or go to HubSpot or go to our survey tool. I can see that in a quantitative manner, right? It's not anecdotal. I know how many people come to our website and go to Blue Hornet. So you can also look at it from an action level or a label level. So you can actually see the exact link label that they clicked on, right? So it gives you that kind of level of detail that you didn't have before, right? So going all the way back to that email, you now know the source and what they're doing, right? You know that this person came from an email, and now you know what they're doing on the website. Did they go to 4 or 5 pages and do certain events or triggers? And so you can also search on these properties as well on any other reporting metrics, right? So if you go to look at all the page views in Google Analytics, you can see the source, and you can also see the events that happened on those pages. And so lastly, we're going to kind of finish up with goals, right? Goals in the Google context it allows you to specify certain things on your site that you deemed as goal worthy, I should say. So for instance, if somebody triggers an event, you can set up a goal, and it will actually track those goals on the website. So those are your conversions, right? So it's an easy way to kind of measure all of your objectives for your website. And so each time a user completes a goal, it gets logged into Google Analytics, and it aggregates it for you, so you don't have to come up with those metrics for yourself. To set up a new goal, it's under the admin area. So this is an area that you probably haven't frequent, right? So when you go into Google Analytics, you usually go into the reporting section. But when you go to the admin section, you can click on admin goals and hit new goals, okay? Once you do that, you have to go to the goal setup. Now, it gives you some different parameters to specify for your goal. They give you some templates that you can follow, like reservations, make a payment. Most of these don't fit into the association context. So in most cases, you're going to have to come up with a custom template for yourself. But if you see something there that kind of resembles what you're actually doing with your website and with your web traffic, I would suggest using the template because it creates it for you, and then it's less work that you have to do. But in this case, and in this example, we create a custom goal. And creating the custom goal, you can use 4 different types of goals, right? You can have a destination. So if somebody, let's say you have a landing page, and at the end of the funnel is that landing page. And if somebody lands on that page, you want to trigger a conversion for that. You can specify that and say, if they land on this page, that triggers a conversion. Or you can do something with duration. Like I said, if a person spends about 45 seconds or a minute on your website, you can fire off a conversion for that as well. Pages, screens per session. So basically what that is saying that if they visit, let's say, 4 pages on your website after coming from your email, you can fire off a conversion for that as well. And Google will do that for you. You don't have to, specify any events or anything. Those are already preset events that Google has in place on conversions. If you do have events in place, those custom call to actions that you created, you can specify that here as well. So if somebody clicks on downloads a link from your white paper, you can specify that exact event in the goal detail, right? So you have category, action, and label, right? So what it's going to do is look at all those events that are getting put into Google Analytics and say, if it matches this, then fire off a conversion inside Google Analytics. So you'll know, okay, I have 10 people that, completed this conversion. And so where you find conversions is under goals in Google Analytics. So under the reporting section, you can go to goals and or go to conversions and then goals, and then it will give you reporting. So you'll see, you can see a daily or a monthly how many goal completions did you have, over the course of, let's say you have to report quarterly, right? So you can say this quarter we've had 65 goal completions, right? And so how many of those were from an email? You can specify that as well. So it gives you the ability to complete that continuum from email to web, right? It allows you to keep everything in harmony, right? So now that you send out your email, you're able to see all of the user interaction with your website and track that interaction so that you can effectively say that, these 5 people are members because of the email activity that we're producing on a daily basis. So are there any questions with this? I know I jammed through this. I wish I could just go into Google Analytics. Do you want me to do that? Or is there any questions? Yeah, is there a way we can switch to Google Analytics?
Did you have a question? You're just going to switch over?
I like to take up this offer.
Yeah, let's do that. Do we got some time? Yeah, we got about 5 minutes, so let's.
You're like way on time.
Oh.
So just I think I'm out of camera view. Just a reminder to the virtual attendees that you are not going to see any slides at this point because you're just going to see what's being live streamed. But Adam, go ahead and take it away. Just didn't want everybody to panic.
All right, let's see. I'm trying to think of my Google Analytics account. You put me on the spot. I shouldn't have meant that. Suzanne, do you have a HighRoad account handy? I put you on the spot now.
I do. Yeah. What's the possibility I know the password? That's right. New computer.
We got 3 minutes.
All right. Pressure's on.
Pressure. How many people are doing like event tracking right now? I want to sit in this chair. Like I've been waiting to sit in this chair all day.
Booyah, baby. One try. How often I look at my analytics. There you go.
Anybody using like event tracking at all, like doing that? What about the campaign tracking? I know a lot of people do that. You guys do that? Yes, no, maybe so.
Yep. Take it away.
Sweet. Perfect. Thank you, Suzanne. Stepping up to the clutch. I like that. If only I can use the laptop. All right.
I can't help you though.
All right. So acquisitions, campaigns, that's where you'll see all of your campaign data, right? So you can see that here there was some campaign activity that was happening. Let's take a look to see. HighRoad U, the U. You got to say it the U, though. So anytime you say HighRoad U, you got to say U, you know? Like it's like, that's the thing. And so you can click into that campaign and you can see additional details and see where the traffic was coming from. So you can see the source and the medium. It's a little faint. Let me go up here to behavior. And I'm going to go to page views. So site content, all pages. And control minus real quick. Is that showing okay on this? Okay, there we go. All pages. I can't see the, is there a mouse? I can't see the other side. So you can from here, what I would typically do is I would look at source data. I can't see it because I got to get over here and the screen is too small. But let's take a look at conversions real quick. So, overview. See if I can scroll down. Is there a mouse for this? Nope. Oh, there it is. So you can see goal completions. So we have, I set up a goal for viewing page simply for this workshop. So you can see that there was 39 goals in the last 3 days. And you know, you can see where the location of that goal was actually completed. And then you can actually see the source and the medium to those goals, right? So sometimes the traffic won't be email. It can be other sources like Facebook or Google, right? So you can, you know, see if email is actually a good indicator to some of the goals that are firing off. Here it looks like email isn't, right? It looks like Google organic traffic is generating a lot of that, a lot of the traffic for those goals. Any questions there? You guys are a quiet crowd. Like, I'm used to people yelling at me. No? You guys tired? I think it's time for a break. You guys good? Any questions? We need some music. We need some like turn up music. Like we need to. All right, everybody, it's a break. When are we coming back? We're coming back at 3:15. We're going to talk about inbound marketing. Dave, where's Dave at? Dave is gone. So we're going to talk about inbound marketing. How many people are familiar with inbound marketing and approach? I see one hand. 2, 3. So inbound marketing, I don't want to steal their thunder, but it's really cool stuff. I talked about it a little bit, but outbound marketing is disruptive, right? It's the idea that you're basically interrupting somebody's day and say, hey, take a look at this. But with inbound, you're actually putting out content that they would like, and they're engaging with you, and you're building that trust, right? And so it's actually more cost-effective to do the inbound approach versus the outbound. So they'll talk about that in a minute. HubSpot is a really good inbound marketing tool. You guys are going to love it. So that's coming up at 3:15. All right.